Wow, you guys, it's already noon.
Can I see you? Before now? Hi, my friend. Oh, I missed you.
Alright, it looks like
That, yeah.
Hi, everybody. I'm Judy. I'm filling in for Valerie. She's got a conflict today. And we're going to get started. Where's our greeter? Oh, well, hi, thank you. And now we've got what pledge and forward is Greg Millard. Mark, go away, go away. Please start.
Pledge allegiance to the flag
Of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
In the four-way test, number one, is it the truth? Number two, is it fair to all concerned? Number three, goodwill and better friendships. Number four, which will be beneficial to all concerned.
Okay, inspiration is Margaret Beth today, filling in for Janie, who's a little bit under the weather.
So I'm gonna just read Janie's inspiration. I wanted to talk about peace because, as you all know, some of us have been working hard on our upcoming walk for peace. I was also struck by the Olympic opening ceremonies last week and what Charlize Theron said during her party. I found it very beautiful and inspiring. Here's what she said. Quote, "This is a message of peace by my beloved countryman, Nelson Mandela. Peace is not just the absence of conflict. Peace is the creation of an environment where all can flourish, regardless of race, color, creed, religion, gender, class, caste, or any other social markers of difference. Today, this message, unquote. Today, this message seems more relevant than ever. So let these games be about more than just sport. Let them be a reminder of our common humanity, our respect for one another, and a resounding call for peace everywhere."
Okay. Do we have any visiting Rotarians or Rotarians with guests? Let's say hi to Jerry, a regular guest. Okay, we have a new member to recognize. Packets, come on. I hate to do it, but this is Packets. Yeah. Anyway, welcome to the club. We're super glad you're here, and I think Lisa's gonna say a couple words and then.
Thank you.
Yeah. No, I meant Margaret.
Just two though.
Just two. Right.
So Tackett, he was born in 1966 in Southern California, but moved with his family to Dustman County shortly before he started first grade. Tackett attended local schools and graduated in 1984 from North Valley High School. He attended the University of Oregon, earning a Bachelor of Arts in Spanish Literature and a Master's in Education. Tackett began his work career as a classroom teacher in Springfield, Oregon, but left teaching to work in technology with the Springfield School District. From there, he migrated to Los Angeles to write a first.com boom. Then began working as a fabricator and machinist. He parlayed his skills into building complicated sets and props for TV commercials, and then worked on a Bay Area TV show, a spinoff of Mythbusters, and was later hired by a BattleBots team as a fabricator and logistics. While living in Los Angeles in the Bay Area, he contributed his skills as a fabricator and machinist to various art exhibits. Tackett is just ending a 12-year career as a consultant focused on a mix of tech companies and education. Been a pretty fun ride. So.
That's been good.
Tackett moved back to the Grass Pass area about 8 years ago and built a house and shop next door to his parents, Linda and Earl Austin, who many of you know. He's interested in becoming more involved in the local community, and when he realized the type of events Road Gateway Rotary sponsors, joining the club seemed like a good way to give back to the community. Please join me in welcoming Tom.
I haven't thought about my bio in age, I realize how much of that is, yes, I worked for this in consulting for the last 15 years. Rather than, well, Baylor probably know. Yeah, it's great to be back in the Road Valley and looking forward to working with all of you.
All you have to do is look.
I got my haircut.
Perfect. Thank you so much. So one of these days, we're gonna have to hear the origin of the name Tackett. He's probably used to it, but we've never heard it. I've never heard it as first name, although someone else said they had. So, okay, we have announcements. Come on up, and I also have a quick announcement for you, which I'm gonna repeat a few times because I can see some of our folks are out of town or otherwise busy today. Just on the utility boxes, you know, the decorated utility boxes downtown. It's not officially a Rotary project, but it's something that I was really interested in. And originally, the city identified 35 sort of beat up looking utility boxes for decoration. This was many years ago. The city funded one or two, and then, you know, there was no money. And so they kind of over the fibs and grabs continued. And we just finished number 18, so there's 17 to go. And our club, along with Tommy Drake, who matched our donation, we've come up with, I think, $12,500. And so we've got very little to go to finish. And thank you to the board members who voted for our donation, because in fact, the Friday morning club, 2 days later said, oh, we'll help you. And they gave us $1,000. So, and I'll say too, if you don't know this, Josh Welch donated $1,000, and that's because he has a good mom. We call him. It's super fun for me, and they cheer me up. And the next 10 are sort of in process, and we'll select them in March or April, and then they'll go up sometime in the summer. So then 7 more after that, and then we'll go on to our next project. So thank you to everybody who donated. More announcements.
I've got a couple. One, I'm going to be passing around the sign up sheet for pledge, inspiration, sergeant, etc. There's only like 6 spots needed, so if we can get them filled out today, that'd be fabulous. And then, you might have to. I already signed up for the pledge, and we're waiting for 1 week. If it doesn't happen another week, I can do 1 more. I'm gonna be gone for a few of this. The other part is for early Valentine's Day, and a great way to be able to support the food bank and Dutch Bros. Dutch Bros has chosen Josephine County Food Bank as a partner for Dutch Love Day. So that's tomorrow. So if you go in and you buy a drink, they will give $1 of every drink to the Josephine County Food Bank. And for every $1 the food bank receives, they can actually supply 2 meals. So we can be doing a lot of good, having a lot of fun. I know both of my branches are going to be getting coffee tomorrow as a way to be able to help support in both avenues. So just something to think about for your loved ones.
Thanks, Jody. And do these thank you notes on our tables have anything to do with the project you did?
Attitudes a bit.
Yeah, Shoes That Fit Kids wrote us thank you notes. And tomorrow happens to be the 29th anniversary of Jody joining this club.
Wow.
So.
Wow.
She's pretty helpful. And speaking of helpful, I want to thank all the people that came and set up on Saturday for the Super Bowl party and helped clean up at the end. It was a tremendous success. We had more people at the party than we had here at the meeting. So, and you know, Tackett didn't mention that one of his specialties is pyrotechnics. So next year's party, I think, is going to be really big fun. You may be wondering who won, but I'm not gonna tell you yet. The Paul Harris Fellow Award for the grand prize. Before that, and during the game, every time the score changed, people got a door prize. Every time the advertisements that they had on their slips aired, they had a door prize. We only, I think, had like 4 or 5 door prizes left, and they were very popular. One of the sponsors from Janie's ads gave a $100 gift card from the coffee company, which was the kitchen company, which was one of his clients. And instead of just putting that in the door prize, Janie created a raffle for it. Margaret finished up the raffle during the game, and we earned an extra $145 for that. So our total donations with the squares that came with them and all of that came to $2,045. The other point is that, remember, the main purpose, besides having a ton of fun at the party, is we want to have E-Ray every Rotarian every year. And when we started this promotion, we had 19 people that were already E-Ray. Now that we finished the promotion, we only need 19 more to make the whole club, having donated at least $25 to the annual fund share. So we're still going to be asking for that. And our grand prize Paul Harris Fellow Award winner is Debbie Amin.
Thank you, Greg, and thanks from all of us for everybody who worked on that. It was really a fun party. The game wasn't as fun as you might have thought, but great food and great fun to see everybody there. So we really appreciate that. I have a couple thank you cards for our 2 treasurers who don't happen to be here today, but I'm going to fill you in on them later. Just a reminder, we have a treasurer for both our foundation and a treasurer for the club. These are really hard and important jobs. And it's one of those deals where once you sign up, it's really hard to get out of it. But they really work hard, and I want to acknowledge that. Okay, we got the sign-up sheet going around, and I believe next step is going to introduce our speaker.
For time for that last bite. It is my pleasure to introduce our speaker today, who is Abby McKee. I want to make her Bobby McKee instead of Abby McKee. Sorry, Abby. Sorry. Anyway, Abby McKee is. It's interesting. I was on the Britt board about 25 years ago, and I remember thinking at that time that this job is horrendously complicated, and because when you're balancing all of these, the artists, the professionals that are coming in and out, the chamber orchestra, the conductors, it was always a very powerful board. And so you also had a board of directors who none of whom held back on how they wanted. This was like, you have to have magic to be able to pull this off. Well, as I read her bio, it just turns out she is that. Between her background, growing up in a home where she had parents that were professional musicians and was educated. I'm going to read the places that she went to college because I couldn't remember them all. She attended the University of Southern California with full scholarship, earned a bachelor's of music and magna cum laude. She continued at the Shepherd School of Music at Rice University and San Francisco Conservatory of Music. So I mean, she really is both culturally with her family and with her educational background. She really gets it. And then on top of that, she has worked with nonprofits from Portland to San Francisco to San Diego, cultural programs as well as musicians and musical programs. And I'm telling you, she plays the flute, so that's where the magic comes in. She's got a magic flute. And so what she's doing now and what that they have planned is absolutely wonderful and amazing for our community, our region. And so I mean, just have Abby share it more with us. Please join me in welcome Abby McKee.
Thank you, Sarah.
Well, good afternoon, everybody. I am so excited to be here, and I'm going to just go ahead and give you the caveat that I got my first pair of reading glasses about 2 weeks ago, so I'm still adjusting, so I'm figuring it out, and forgive me if I have to keep taking them on and off. It's just a learning curve, as I think we all figure out with the fullness of time. So, yeah, I'm Abby McKee. I am the president and CEO of the Britt. I have been in the role for 4 years. Come up in a couple of weeks, I'll hit my 4-year anniversary. And yeah, my whole background was in a musical family as a musician. But I grew up in a very rural part of the world. I grew up in rural Appalachia. My hometown, my dad was the marching band director of Virginia Tech for 35 years. And so my hometown was 8,000 permanent residents and 25,000 college students. And because of the university, even though it's an incredibly remote part of the world, you're really, we had to drive like an hour and a half to go to a mall, right? And so because of the university, my town had an extraordinarily rich cultural base of programming. We had really incredible music performances that would travel through town because of the university. We also had a really amazing international population. So my high school was the only high school in town. It was 1,000 kids, and there were 42 native languages spoken in my high school in my senior year. And because of that, because of the experience of growing up in a small area that had these amazing resources because of the university, I grew up with a real passion for creating cultural hubs in places that don't have as much access. And so most of these arts jobs, most jobs to do what I do are in urban areas, and I spent most of my young adulthood in urban areas for that reason. But when this job came up at Britt, after doing a little bit of research, it just felt like this magic fit that I couldn't have imagined. And so that's what brought me here. I love this place, and this organization is so, so special. So one of my favorite things to do whenever I'm in places like this is just ask, how many people in this room have been board members at Britt? Board members? How many people have been volunteers at Britt? Okay, now we'll go in the opposite direction. Has anyone not been to Britt? Oh, we've always got a couple. So this is always fun for me. So Britt was, and also I'm using a PowerPoint, which I almost never do. So we're going to see how we do this together. Okay. Britt was founded in 1963 by John Trudeau. That's him up there. John was a trombonist from the Portland area. And in 1963, John was looking for a place to found a music festival. And he'd fallen in love with Southern Oregon. He and his family would come down to visit OSF every summer. He would sometimes play in the orchestras for OSF productions. And so he knew Southern Oregon was an area that he'd really like to check out. And on one fateful day in 1963, he ended up in Jacksonville on this hillside that was just covered in blackberries. And he had a friend with him, his friend Sam, who was a cellist. And Sam stood on one part of the hill, and John stood on another part of the hill. And they realized that far away from each other, they could actually hear each other perfectly clearly. The hill had some really special acoustic properties. And so they walked down the hill to the breakfast diner. And the breakfast diner is what is now Cowhorn Kitchen and Wine. And they sat there and they had breakfast and they were just chatting, and they weren't like being quiet about their ideas. They were just kind of chatting like friends would about this crazy idea. And the proprietor, the owner of the diner, popped over and said, I can't help but overhear what you're talking about. Also, I am the mayor of Jacksonville. And so we have a city council meeting this afternoon. Would you like to come propose your idea? And so they walked down the street to the city council meeting that same day, proposed the idea. And so that is how, within about a 12-hour span, Britt went from an idea to a reality. John was the leader of the orchestra for many, many years. And really, the thing that made Britt so special was that it was built by the community for the community. So when you look at big festivals like Coachella or Bonnaroo or any of these other big festivals that are out there, those were built by a corporate presenter to make a lot of money. And Britt was not built like that. Britt was built for the community to come in, for the community to come and enjoy what was at that time the orchestra. I love this picture because this is showing members of the community actually building the stage. And in those early years, The stage was built with plywood platforms, and people would save their Folgers coffee cans all year and spray paint them black. And they would put light bulbs, string lights in them, and string them across the stage. And that was how the stage was lit. It was with everybody's leftover Folgers coffee cans. So this festival is so special because it is such a community effort. It has certainly grown into something that's very highly professional, but it really has decades of roots of Jacksonville folks and area people building this festival quite literally from materials that were left over from their garbage. So the orchestra began in 1963 with 40 musicians. Most of those musicians were from the Portland area, but I actually learned a fun fact a couple weeks ago, which is that, as I mentioned, my dad was the marching band director at Virginia Tech for 35 years. One of his colleagues at Virginia Tech, a guy I grew up with, knew my whole life, was a violinist in the orchestra in the very first season. And so these musicians came from all over the country and continue to come from all over the country and all around the world to play in the Britt Orchestra. In 1972, John decided he wanted to add an education program. We'll talk quite a bit more about this, but the education program for him was a real passion to make sure that young people were starting to become engaged in the arts and in music early on. Now, this is more crucial now than it ever was. In the 70s, arts programs were still funded. In the 80s, when I was growing up, arts funding programs were still funded. Now, we're really seeing arts funding almost go away, and it's really not considered a priority in so many of the schools. Many schools here don't even have a dedicated art or music teacher that sees kids, every single week. So we'll talk a little bit more about Britt education as we come to that. In 1978, the pavilion was built. So the county and Britt worked together to design the structures that are on the hill now, and that was built in 1978. So that coffee can era lasted about 15 years. And then we finally grew into a building 15 years later. And the year after that, popular music was launched, and it started with jazz. And the popular music initially was intended for a couple of reasons: to draw people in who didn't see the orchestra as being their thing, but also to help fund the orchestra in those early years. The orchestra, how many of you are orchestra nerds? Anybody? I might be the only orchestra nerd here. Orchestras are a really incredible, beautiful way to lose a ton of money. That is just what they do. And in fact, when I interviewed for the job, the board said to me, "We'd love to bring somebody in who could make the orchestra turn a profit." And I said, "You are crazy. That is never going to happen." But the orchestra really was such a valued and valuable part of the community that the idea came forward to, okay, well, let's sell some more expensive tickets to these more popular music shows, and then we can help kind of underwrite the loss of the orchestra. So in the 70s and 80s, featured performers included names like Arlo Guthrie, James Brown, Etta James, Smokey Robinson, Robert Plant, Diana Ross, and since then it's grown to include names like Kelsey Ballerini, Nora Jones, Tracy Chapman, Joan Baez, Rainbow Kitten Surprise, Boy George, and just so many more. Whenever I'm feeling like I just need to hurt my own feelings a little bit, I look at all the shows I didn't get to go to it with, because it is a real laundry list of amazing talent. Who we are today. So today we've grown dramatically. We have an operating budget of almost $7 million a year. We have a full-time year-round staff of 18. That will probably grow into about 21 in the next couple of years. We'll talk more about why that will be in a couple of minutes. We serve around 100,000 people per year. And that is a combination of things. It's concerts out on the main stage, it's education programs, but Britt also manages the Britt Hill Public Park 365 days a year. So if you think about it, it's kind of an interesting thing that, you think about a city managing public parks. They have multiple parks employees. We have one person, Caleb, who is our facilities person, who makes sure that public park is up and running for folks. And when you do the math, that means for 40 nights a year, we're a live music venue. And for 325 days a year, we're a public park. So we wear a lot of hats for a lot of people. And a lot of our investment is in making sure that public park is something that folks can use year round, that folks who are coming down from the woodlands hiking have access to water, have access to restrooms, all of that good stuff. that our public parks provide that we know are so important. We're a 501c3 nonprofit, which of course that's a tax status, not a business model. It doesn't mean we're trying to never make any money, but it does mean that every dollar that we earn, every single dollar, is either directly goes into the pockets of the artists on the stage or is reinvested back in our community. And that makes us super unique compared to some of these other big corporate venues where there's a corporate headquarters somewhere else in the country. And like, you know, there's maybe one or two people who live in the local community and maybe they'll hire some gig workers from the local community. But for Britt, every single person on our team lives here. We are your neighbors. We all care about this valley. We all live here, and all of our money is invested back in the community as well. And so that is something that I think makes Britt tremendously special. We have a mission to share extraordinary live performances and arts education experiences that inspire discovery and build community, anchored at the Britt Hill Amphitheater. So I know that over many years, probably some of you remember, there have been Britt performances at places like the Expo in Central Point. But really what we realized as we thought through our strategic plan that we'll talk about momentarily is we are inextricably linked to the Britt Hill. That's who we are, is that location. And so we want those experiences to be world-class, but we want them to happen at our home base, the place that you've come to know and think of as Britt. We are not the same when we're somewhere else. It's just a different experience. And I think the amphitheater is so, so special. Our amphitheater is only 2,200 seats. We're the smallest amphitheater on the main tour circuit. We have a cap at 2,200 right now with the conditional use permit with the city. And if you look at, for example, the Hayden Homes Amphitheater in Bend, which is another wonderful place to have a concert, that's 8,000 folks. So when you come to Britt, you're having an incredibly intimate experience, and we also have the best sound system on the West Coast by far. So you're having both that intimate experience and the absolute best sound that you can possibly get. We are also, oh, we talked about that, sorry. This is where the PowerPoint's gonna just steer me slightly wrong. All right, so the last thing I'll say before we move on to the strategic plan is Britt is also the primary economic driver of the city of Jacksonville. So we, in addition to the cost of our operating budget, we generate an estimated $10 million per year in economic activity of folks traveling to Britt, folks coming in from out of town, people visiting restaurants, people staying in Airbnbs and inns and the wonderful bed and breakfast facilities in Jacksonville. So we are the primary economic driver of the Jacksonville economy. And as we looked at our strategic plan, which was is our 5-year roadmap, as designated by the board of directors. We're in year 2 right now of that 5-year roadmap. And we decided to call it the next big dream. And we wanted to focus on 3 key areas, which are community, discovery, and stewardship. And our vision was a community that thrives through the creation and enjoyment of the arts. We don't want you to just come to Britt and sit in the audience and be a passive observer. We want to create this vibe of you get to explore your imagination world as well. And we want to be a part of creating that. So we'll be talking a little bit more about education and how we want that to expand actually to adult education as well, because we want to create a place where folks can actually get involved in the creation of the arts. Our goals are to grow the community that we serve, the people who attend Britt and the people who experience the arts through Britt. We want to provide diverse opportunities for creativity, discovery, and imagination. We want this to spark your brain. And we want to steward and conserve the land and facilities we occupy for future generations. Again, that public park piece is something that is a very, very big deal. And we haven't, as an organization, done a very good job of talking about that. So we really want to own that and be quite public about that stewardship piece. All right, so part of that stewardship piece is that Britt has been the kind of hinge of the Jacksonville economy since 1963. In fact, Jacksonville was named America's first National Historic Landmark town in 1965. And that was really what started to bring Jacksonville back from sort of a backwater town that the railroad kind of missed, right? And so one of the things that our board started articulating in the 80s in their strategic plans, we actually found it in a 1984 document, is the desire to centralize our operations year-round in Jacksonville. We have our office in downtown Medford. I'm sure many of you have come to see our extremely beautiful office that used to be a Pacific Power office building. And for many, many years, there's been a dream to move us into Jacksonville because that's the community we most closely impact. Right now, we're a little bit of a bifurcated team. Some of our folks are out on the Hill all year. Some of our folks are in the office, and in the summer, all bets are off. We have no idea when we're going to see each other. So many times we've kind of chewed on this as an organization, talked about what are we going to do about this problem? Jacksonville's pretty tiny. There's not a lot of space to move in. We have some pretty specific needs. So in May of 2024, after a long series of conversations and events and various discussions and options, Britt became the owner of the historic U.S. Hotel building, which is on the corner of California and 3rd Street. It's the largest building on the main drag of downtown Jacksonville. If you've been through Jacksonville, you've seen it. And we purchased that building with a couple of key ideas. We're going to renovate that building to become our headquarters. It's also going to become a performance and community gathering space and an education center. So the building is about 10,000 to 11,000 square feet, depending on how you're looking at the footprint. The ground floor is going to become our box office and our office space, but we're also building right in the center of it a meeting room that we're calling the Listening Lab, which will have high quality audio where we can do lectures and folks can come in and listen to records and folks can come in. And I went to one of these in Portland a couple of years ago where a gentleman who was an expert in jazz played all of his old Blue Note albums on vinyl and started with the earliest ones and talked about not just the main performer whose name was on the album, but the session musicians who were playing backup. Because those session musicians then became people who had their own solo careers. And so we listened for several weeks to albums that were sort of evolving from each other. And so we want to be able to host events like that in that Listening Lab space. We will be putting in an elevator, and that is probably the big structural change that we're making to the building is we're going to make the building ADA accessible on all 3 floors. Has anybody been in the U.S. Hotel building? Okay, yes. So the U.S. Hotel ballroom upstairs is one of the things that's original to the building, which is from 1880. The ballroom has hosted many kinds of events over the years, people's parties, wedding receptions, retirement events, quinceañeras, all kinds of things. The ballroom is going to stay a ballroom. So we are turning that into performance space, but we also want that to be activated by the community all year long. So we will be also building a warming kitchen upstairs. So if folks want to have events, they can actually bring in a caterer who can function there. There's a really beautiful historic bar that's attached to the ballroom. We'll be revitalizing that. So there's hospitality space, and we're putting in ADA accessible modern bathrooms in all parts of the building. The 3rd floor is going to become an education center additional space. So for classroom programs, after school programs, we will have education center space on all 3 floors of the building. They'll be able to use the Listening Lab, the ballroom, and the ancillary space attached to the ballroom, and a classroom on the 3rd floor, which we'll be able to use for after school programs, evening things, conferences. I'm a big swing dancer, so we're looking forward to live dances in the ballroom, all those kinds of good things. We'll be kicking off our capital campaign. We've got the wrong year. We're kicking off the capital campaign for the building in autumn of this year, but we are still working right now on all the planning. And actually, we got our sign off from the Planning Commission last night at 7 o'clock. Yeah, thanks. All right, so education. As I said, education is a huge part of what we do, is a huge part of John Trudeau's legacy. We are the largest arts education organization in Southern Oregon. So we do arts programs in many, many different schools. We provide admission-free arts programming with visiting artists going to schools throughout Jackson and Josephine counties. We also do summer programs, our Britt Kids concerts, which are admission-free. We bring in Grammy Award-winning or Grammy-nominated children's performers, and we do admission-free concerts for kids and families in Medford. But we also last year started doing those here in Grants Pass. So we have, I think, 3 or 4 of them scheduled this summer as well that we'll be announcing in the next couple of weeks. And we have our summer flagship rock band camp, which I'm super jealous is just for teens. And those programs are, we have 35 kids show up for that. They can show up with no musical experience whatsoever. They are assigned a band that they're in, a band of 7 players, and they have private instruction and group coaching all week. And at the end of the week, those bands have all written and then perform an original song. And last summer was the first year we brought it back in about 15 years. And our performance was for about 250 folks. So it's a really, really special program. We actually just announced the dates for this summer. So if there are any teens in your life, be sure that they are looped into this. Education is a huge part of what we do in the summer as well. So we have, on the bottom left, you can see a group of kids who are learning drumming using some hardware store buckets. That's actually a program that we do with migrant youth in the Medford School District for summer school. And so we bring in professional percussionists to teach them percussion workshops. They also teach them how to build different types of instruments with items they might find all over the house. And at the end of the week, we do a performance. So up in the top left, we have one of our Britt Kids concerts. And on the right, we have our concertmaster for the orchestra, Iki Jang, teaching lessons to some of our local youth who play violin. We talked about Rock Camp already. I'm just going to buzz through that. They're having a great time. Also, it's a wonderful reminder of how emotive teens are. I went to the showcase last year and I thought it was going to be like, I don't know, I thought the songs were going to be happy. No, they were very angsty. And it was a really good reminder of teen angst. It was a lot of fun. Okay, Britt Festival Orchestra, we have a new music director and he's debuting this year. He was one of our candidates last year. His name's Norman Huynh. He is a rock star, y'all. He is fantastic. So highly recommend checking Norman out. Norman grew up in rural Alabama. His parents were refugees and moved to rural Alabama and opened a Chinese buffet restaurant. And so Norman grew up playing the trombone and marching band, migrated into orchestra when he was in college, and is just the coolest guy. If anybody got to hear him last summer, the thing that makes Norman incredibly special is he has a wonderful way of explaining to you what's happening in the music, so you never feel lost. And even as a big orchestra nerd, some of that music is incredibly dense, and you can feel like you don't quite know what's going on. He's magical at explaining it to you. Right before the piece starts, he's like, okay, here's what's about to happen. We're gonna go through this. I knocked the thing off. We're gonna go through this. You're gonna hear this theme, and then he'll sing it to you. It's a really extraordinary experience. So highly recommend checking that out. Our orchestra season has been announced, and I want to especially draw your attention to Star Wars: The Emperor Strikes Back. How many people have checked out the movie with the orchestra? It's the best. Okay, so for anybody who hasn't checked it out, you must come to this. So we show the entire movie on the big screen, and the orchestra plays the soundtrack live to picture. It is magical. It is magical. And this is also something that Norman does especially well. He's sort of the go-to. He does this. They fly him into New York to do this with the New York Philharmonic regularly. He is incredible at movies with the orchestra. And I have heard rumor that he will maybe debut a lightsaber sometime during this performance. I know many of you have seen our announcement already of Britt Live for the summer season. Bonnie Raitt, I know, is everybody's kind of go-to. Get your tickets now, and you really do get yourself on that list, because I believe we are darn close to sold out for that show. Are we? Yeah. Sorry.
I just want to sit on the hill.
Right. You can sit on the hill. I mean, but yeah, it's a
Reserved for sold out.
it moved. I think it sold out the first day that we opened.
This
So
was their last year to perform live.
oh well, we are. I will tell you, we tried to get a second night, like last week when we saw it was going to sell out, and unfortunately, she's booked up her routing. But yeah, she's going to, of course, be with us. We've got wonderful additional shows that are getting announced tomorrow. We're announcing 6 more. And then we have another 15 or so that we'll be announcing in March and April. So it's going to be an incredible season. I always think that. I'm a little biased, but please do consider joining us. And please make sure you are either calling the box office directly or going to brit.org. If you type in Britt Tickets or Britt Music and Arts Festival into Google, we are going to be like the 8th result, because the scalpers out there in the world right now spend so much money to make sure they are higher up on the search results, and we have people get scammed for every single show. Hundreds of dollars. So please be sure that you're always on our website. Is that everything? Ha! We made it together. Yes. I would love to answer your questions. Go for it. Oh, you want to do the microphone?
Do you want me to get around? I'll go around.
I can also repeat back the question, so.
Thanks for being.
In the last few years, one of the things, the presentations of Britt that my wife and I have enjoyed the most have been the movies backed by the orchestra. Okay, so I understand an orchestra has to practice. I get it. But can you do more of it in one season and maybe do some classic movies? We don't have to be just the super ultra Star Wars stuff. I mean, let's do the Sound of Music or Oklahoma or something like that.
Yeah, this is an excellent question. Okay, so here's my dreamy dream. We can kind of only fit one in with the orchestra, but what I really want to do is be able to show other movies during the course of the season that don't necessarily have orchestra. And that sort of relates to your other question, which is some of the classic movies. One of the challenges is that these have to be organized by the production company. So they actually have to pull the music out of the movie, create a click track so that the conductor knows where they're actually going to be playing. So there are more of them now, but basically every year, a couple of movies get added to the roster of things you could play. Right? So it's a little tricky. Like the first one I ever saw was actually the San Francisco Symphony, and it was one of my very favorite all-time movies, Singing in the Rain. And the movies where the orchestra is playing and someone on screen is singing are incredibly difficult. They take a lot more rehearsal. So that's one of the challenges. But what I'm hoping for is that we're able to, at some point, buy our own LED screen. Right now we have to rent our LED screen, and then we would be able to put it up multiple times during the season and show movies. And I will tell you, my dream first season of that would be The Sound of Music, and then We Are Spinal Tap.
Yeah.
Yeah, nice.
One of my musical loves is a cappella, and I know a few times you've had Straight No Chaser, which is my absolute favorite a cappella group. But I would like to see more a cappella, Straight No Chaser, Naturally Seven, a new one I just found a few months ago, a group called Home Free.
Okay.
I mean, I would love to see more a cappella.
I will definitely register that with our programs team, and please always feel free to send us your ideas. You know, it's always challenging to manage the routing and the budgeting and all those good things, but we love suggestions because at a certain point you just run out of ideas. So please send us your ideas. We love that.
So you have some pretty big name artists who play Britt, and you have a tiny little audience.
How?
Is playing at Britt just so wonderful and so intimate that Bonnie Raitt will give up a staggering paycheck to come play?
This is the question. This is the correct question. And this is the question that we're struggling with as an organization and as a business because, for example, Live Nation, which is the big company that owns well over 50% of the venues in the country at this point, and is actually currently facing a potential monopoly conversation at the federal level because they also own Ticketmaster, but they make it very hard for us to be competitive. Yeah, we're working on it. But I think there are a couple things about Britt that are sort of special. Number one, we are at this really interesting geographic halfway point between Portland and San Francisco, and the way truck driver rules work now, they can't drive straight through. So they have to stop somewhere. And so we're in this really fortunate place where they could stop and stay in a hotel, or they could get paid a couple bucks, right? The other thing that Britt has, and you are going to think this is a joke, and it is not, we have the best food on the circuit. We have the best food on the circuit. We have a woman named Karen Parker who cooks everything from scratch, breakfast, lunch, and dinner. And the bands pull up in the morning. So usually what happens is they finish their gig, they get on a tour bus, and they drive all night, land in our parking lot, doors open, the band rolls out, exhausted, probably a little hungover, really confused because they've been going from arena to arena to arena, and they get to our place and the doors open then. Usually there's like deer and turkeys swarming the bus. And then they walk up the stairs to backstage, and Karen Parker is standing there smiling, and she says, "How would you like your eggs cooked this morning?" And more than one band, since I've been here, has walked in, and the very first thing that they say is, This is an actual quote from ZZ Top. I remember this place. They have the best food. So we really have that going for us as well. It's something sort of special. Yeah, great. Yeah, please tell me when we're done.
Two quick questions. One, you said you generate about $10 million a year for Jacksonville. Have you computed how much you also contribute to the larger communities around?
It's a great question. Yeah.
Yeah, and the second question is, have you lost any federal funding?
Great questions. Thank you for those. So our estimate for the greater area is a little tougher to pin down. The local one is generated by Americans for the Arts. So they do a kind of calculation based on what they know about you. The broader area is a little tougher. So our estimate is about 18 million. But it's harder to get data for that. So we're still working on fine tuning that. There are some very sophisticated tools for it that we just need to invest some money in to be able to speak to. Your second question, I'm so sorry, federal funding. We have never received federal funding. And so the glory for us is that we don't lose any federal funding. That's pretty nice. Would I be mad about receiving federal funding? I would not. I would totally love some federal money, but I think with the U.S. hotel renovation, that is for us the big area where we're looking at grant funding as potentially a challenge. Because, you know, it is historic preservation, it's arts education centers, it's opportunities for kids. These check a lot of boxes, but with federal funding being sort of a nebulous animal right now, many of our private funders that we rely on are starting to refocus their funding efforts on things that are more sort of emergent need, like food and shelter. So these are things that we're all sort of chewing on right now and paying attention to.
I'm a fast talker too. One of my closest friends that I grew up in college and was trained by Bobby Kidder was your stage manager for many years.
Nice.
And sadly, we lost him in 2020. But I worked a show in 2019, and I can speak personally what a complex operation you all put together, and how the truck drivers can even get in there is a miracle.
It is ridiculous.
And I worked so hard that I crawled into bed with my shoes on.
Yeah.
And it was such a beautiful experience. And I'm very glad that you're here with your experience, and welcome and thank you for the work you do.
Well, thank you. And thank you for the work that you've done, because those are, you know, for folks who've been board members, for folks who've been staff members, I am only in this job because you all carried the water for so long. So thank you for letting me do it.
Jack, Abby will stay a few extra minutes if you have a question you didn't get to answer. And I just want to say you are a fabulous, articulate, insisting speaker. Every eye was on you. And we are so grateful that you made the trek over here. And yeah, and you swing dance too. Badly, very bad. Oh, very bad. Anyway, that was just delightful. Really, really enjoyed it. And I think we're going to go to Sergeant now, and I think that's me, Allison. Come on up.
It's my show today. Hi everybody. I didn't plan much because it's been crazy, but I thought since we have Britt here today that we could talk about our favorite Britt shows, our favorite Britt experiences. Because my experience isn't necessarily at a show, but you had mentioned ZZ Top. And I was at a bar in Medford with my husband, and in walks Billy Gibbons from ZZ Top, and he had walked in casually, and my husband insisted it was him. I had been there for a little while, so I was a few drinks in. I'm like, there's no way that's him. And then we looked it up that he was playing at the Britt, and then I got to spend some time with him, and it was really cool. So not only are the shows fantastic, then the performers are coming into our community, and he told me that was the best beer he'd ever had, but I don't know if that's true. And I took a really great picture with him if anybody wants to see it. It's him, my husband and I, and it looks like me and Billy Gibbons are a couple. My husband it's a great picture. But I've also had some really great experiences too. 2 summers ago, my husband and I were going to go to the Britt to go see Dirty Heads, who I absolutely love. And he got sick last minute, and so I got to invite my mom. which when you are married and have children, you really don't get that one-on-one time with a parent that often. And so we got to go together and it was amazing. It's like the only one-on-one time I've had with her in 7+ years. So that was really special. Anyways, if we have any happy bucks, we can go to happy bucks and then also share any special Britt experiences. Let's get it over from there. Yeah.
Got a hand up box in. Oh, yeah. Yeah, I'll check that. Who wants to be a mic runner? Oh, I did.
Well, I'm happy thanks for Jim Lefebvre's question earlier. My things always make me feel old, but these things that I think are recent were actually decades ago. And then Jim says we need classic movies, not new things like Empire Strikes Back. And I just love that because that's like when I was a kid, I went to see Empire Strikes Back, so it can't be old, but it's actually almost 50 years old. So it can't be a classic.
Well, I've actually been in Britt Hill so many times since I moved here in 1990 that I can't remember them all. It's a Britt Festival, Britt's organization does so much for our communities, and it's a nice, intimate place to go. I think sitting up front underneath looking at Hart was a good one. And I saw the Sound of Music at Britt, but it must have been in the 90s. It was a long time ago. I want to thank you. But the one thing I have, the 20 happy bucks here, is for something that I did not share last week. I'm 20 years in recovery. And I celebrated my 20-year shift at Celebrated Recovery last Tuesday. I'm in recovery for codependence. Now I have some other things that I've dealt with, some drugs and alcoholism, but basically it was codependence that was the base of all that. And so 20 years.
Well, I have happy bucks for back in the early 80s. I was dirt poor, came up here from California, lived out in Williams. And some friends of mine says, yeah, let's go with Britt. Didn't have enough money, couldn't pay for a ticket. We would drink our little beer outside the fence. And James Taylor, I don't know, Jackson Brown, there were different bands that I can't even remember because I was probably 3 sheets to the wind. But can you still get outside the fence?
So you can hear outside the fence for like block off the fence oh, I hate you to say this. Basically, the fence has to be solid for active shooter risk. Yeah.
Well, I have a happy book. I don't see Sue Parrish. She was here. Oh, there she is. Sue Parrish won the drawing for the $100 gift card at the Kitchen Connection. And she told me she was going to donate it to the Women's Crisis Support Team. And before somebody there who is just starting up a new home. So I think that's really nice. Very rotating.
Maybe somebody down in the fence and Papa Chuck was there. Anybody else?
We have Zoom too.
We've got one up on Zoom also.
We'll tell her she can talk. Well, while we wait for the Zoom, one of my memories of talk about Bonnie Raitt is we've seen her a number of times up there as the year of the Power Saws. And that was like, wow. It was kind of like one of those cultural moments of feeling really confused because there were lots of different perspectives. So Britt means a lot to many of us in many ways. When I was first started at RVMC, our foundation board chair said she needed to show me where I needed to go and introduce me to the people I needed to meet. And one of the places she took me was to Britt. So it's been always a special place in my heart. All right.
Can we do one song?
Yeah. Are you ready for me?
Yeah, I can tell them that they can talk.
Oh, she's talking. Can you hear me?
Hold on just a sec, Kelly. We're getting volume for you.
Oh, okay. Oh. I don't know if it's gonna work.
I think she's unmuted.
It's the TV. The TV's not working.
Oh, okay.
Sound.
Volume won't go up.
Mm-mm.
You know sign language?
Use the chat, Kelly. We'll read it out loud.
It's okay.
No.
That makes me sad. I'm sorry. I would like to chime in and say, I mentioned my friend Andrew Ratmustain was our wonderful stage manager that you all had, and his children still work there to this day. And your people call me every year and try to get me to come back. It's hard work.
I bought Andrew's work truck, so I drive Betty Andrew's work truck for my garden.
That makes my heart really happy. And I'm throwing in some happy bucks for that and some sad bucks because he was one of the greatest people I've had the honor of being friends with. I have some sad bucks too. My niece Ashley is gone. She has flown away, but she's started a new life and she's really happy. I know that y'all, thank you all so much for welcoming her to our club and loving her so much. I very much appreciate that. Gonna miss her.
We have any more? One more.
Great.
Thanks, Jamie. We were among the lucky ones who got to see Bonnie Raitt at least once at the Britt. And that time, and this next time, I'm going to tell you a little bit about a little story. We lucked into tickets literally when some friend couldn't go to the show or something and sent an email around saying, anyone want a couple of tickets to the Britt tonight or tomorrow, whenever it was? And the other show that I wanted to point out was Lyle Lovett. He brought the whole big band, I guess, an extra truck. And it was a wonderful show. And to demonstrate some of the intimacy you get with the artists in the Britt, he had just virtual conversations with the whole audience. And he told a story about going to lava lanes and trying to bowl in his cowboy boots.
Thank you, Greg. Let's do one more, Dawn.
I guess two good quick memories of early Brit experiences. Probably Brit must have been struggling, but actually my son was in South Pacific with Jen Kramer and performed at Brit with, to an audience of parents. And then the other quick one, I think it was probably Beau Soleil, Cajun band. And then there weren't a lot of rules. We flew in a bunch of crawdads. We cooked them and then we actually had like some Sazerac whiskey along too, so.
Thank you, Dawn, and wow, what a bunch of great memories and stories. I will just take a minute and introduce Tammy McKee, who came in. I met Tammy on last Friday when I was doing my shift at Gallery 1. She is the lead medical legal death investigator for Josephine County. She's new to the area. She can look at our club and she's going to come speak to us. And because I could never make it as administrative assistant, instead of saying 11:45, I invited her apparently at 12:45. So we're going to have her come back and give us a talk, and a warm welcome to you. Happy night. Let's do the card draw, and then I'll give my thought for the day, or I can do it ahead of time. I'll do it now. So this is the thought for the day I'm going to do now, and then we'll do the card draw. But this is from Lily Tomlin, who is one of my heroes. She's 86 years old now, born in Detroit. Her father was a blue-collar factory worker. She went to college and stayed and studied biology, and in college took a class in drama and fell in love with performing. In the 80s, I saw her in that show, remember, In Search of Signs of Intelligent Life in the Universe in Philadelphia. She was absolutely hysterical. And one of the things she said, which is completely true for me, man invented language to satisfy his deep need to complain. Everyone, and let's do card.
Oh, sure. 8 of diamonds.
8 of diamonds. Who's our winner? All right. Thank you. Thank you, Abby. If you have questions, she'll stay in a minute. We'll see you all next week.
Oh, you know what?
Oh, well.